Hey guys. So I actually ended up winning the regional last weekend. I still can't really believe it, but I played Zeke, Yeager, Warchief, and I wanted to talk about my deck a bit. Um, Truly never was sure if this day would come, but it did in a lot earlier than I thought. So, it was a combination of I think a great deck for this tournament and like a good bracket that sort of panned out for me. So yeah, let's talk about the deck and everything. So this character, I guess I'll talk about the character bit first. He has a once per turn. Your next check gets plus X, where X is the number of backups in your stage plus one, which is really good for defending like really tall moves. And then he also has enhanced sacrifice a backup, gain a life, draw a card. That's really good when they try and poke your backups. Makes it very hard to interact with the front side of this character initially. You can keep him off backups, but eventually, because he's drawing cards, he can like get ahead anyway. And then his transform is tied to the sacking a backup, and you have to have 10 backups combined in your stage and discard. So his backside is essentially just like a late game character. It's if you have two or more backups in your stage, your range and Titan cards get +2 to their checks. Makes him great for blocking, great for stringing out. Falling Titans is on rolling fours. And then he has enhanced, commit a backup, gain a life, draw a card. So he really gets far ahead on card advantage if given the chance when he transforms. But let me go into what I ran and why. So the strategy with this character, at least the way I wanted to play it, was I wanted to run a number of attacks that I was comfortable leading with, and then a number of big moves. So to start off, these are kind of the ones that I wanted to play first, which are Unyielding, Harness on Death, or Rock Barrage. This was just the next best attack that I thought would be really good into backup mirrors, and it was, as we saw in the finals. But you're fine just kind of throwing this out if you have nothing else going on. And then sometimes you'll save it for like a kill condition if you can burn through their damage reduction and blocks, or just kind of zone check them right. This card combines really well with Falling Titans because Falling Titans demands a lot of high blocks and this card's a low. So they have to be thinking about both of those, which puts them in a difficult spot. But essentially, the play pattern with this character was you have these big attack, or these smaller attacks that you want to play first, and then these big ones that you want to play with the buff to your check. That's like the early game plan. This is like the super late, so I'll get to that. But these are great because you can search them with Resurrected Titans, and then also they turn into backups, so they count towards your 10 to flip. And also they're really big and interact well with 9 Titans. And then these are just like, this is great for backup decks. It makes it difficult to keep up with them because backup decks keep their backups when they nuke to 4 foundations, and Rock Barrage is just kind of like, I think like the staple card for these backup decks. I think everyone was running 4 of it. Super good at dealing with boards and answers and stuff. So that was the general attack package, and then the last 3 attacks were the Falling Titans. Zeke is probably the best Falling Titans deck because he buffs the check to play them. So they're just on rolling fours. It's incredibly safe. You saw me do it over and over where I just would play so many of these and commit no foundations. A lot of the other backup decks can't do anything similar to that and have to go in sooner or play less of this card, whereas I just I get to go falling, all the way down to 2 backups, and then I can maybe say my last 2 backups are like 9 Titans. I can play one of these and buff the stats on it or whatever after burning through my opponent's answers. That was the general game plan. However, it does take a while. And the reason Zeke was like a good pick for this game plan is because he's very good at getting to late game. He can answer very tall moves early and then is good against stringing out later because he gains a lot of life. And part of that was I wanted to block a lot with this deck. So let me go into like the foundations and talk about why I sort of went that way as my main plan to stay alive over like just kind of damage reduction. You'll notice I'm not running Titans under orders. I have a little bit of DR, but generally my backups are not protected. If you attack them, I'm just going to sack them. But these are like fantastic block mods, and that is the main reason that they're at 4Xs in the deck. It helps to have a lot of zeros when you're trying to play 2 attacks early in this character and then build out. But at the same time, that is the primary reason. This last 0, I went to 3 of it because Rock Barrage can't commit it, and that definitely came up a lot. But then also, it's just good against things like Chimera Kraken targeting a reset or Rock Barrage targeting a reset. Doesn't always work in those cases because there was a lot of target commit going on, but it's something. So yeah, a lot of zeros, a lot of blank foundations that I was flipping to stuff like Pump Up, which we'll talk about. In terms of other foundations, surprising Inspiring Songs just helps you complete your little mini quest of getting to 10 backups, which is really good. This card is Messed Up Deadlock, and it's 1/1 on your first move, which just is fine. I had this as a bit of a hedge for unyielding, a little bit of speed reduction in a sense, just helps me block and then protects my foundations, which was very nice. Get to the rest of the foundations before I do the backups. So the bigger ones, I went with 2 Incredible Display. Where are the Frantic Rescues? Oh, they're there. This is just a very good card for blocking and interacting with cards that interact with your Falling Titans, so it's a great card. 2 seemed like a decent number. I could have maybe gone to 3. Frantic Rescue is very good at making it difficult for your opponent to string out at a certain point. So this card came up a lot. It was fantastic. The ability to like reduce the damage on something with 9 Titans and then take a little bit of damage and respond Frantic Rescue was great. And if they build out, fantastic. That's what we want. We just get further and further ahead in the late game. Then the last few foundations, I ran a bunch of 1x of uniques. Moment of Normalcy, Loyalty of a Friend, Dramatic Accident, Macho Concealment, and Pump Up. Pump Up isn't a unique, but it was great. This card just allowed me to flip my blank zeros and turn my opponent's stage off as they start to interact with Falling Titans, because they have to block a lot if they choose that plan to survive falling, and Pump Up will just say their whole stage is sealed when that happens. The other thing is when I'm blocking a lot, I can use Pump Up to turn off their offensive pieces, which came up as well. This card was great. These are just backup scaling pieces here. They were fine at 1x. There's a lot of target commit and stuff, and I didn't want to do too much of uniques because I wanted to make sure that I was able to build out all the cards I draw, and if I have several of the uniques, sometimes that won't happen. So that was why we only ran the 1x's. I did side a second Moment of Normalcy, and then Macho is just kind of more stage interaction. I think it was 28 foundations in total. This is the... oh, so that's the attacks. So the backups here, we've got 10 Yeagerists. This is kind of like the main backup engine right now for Zeke in particular. You can run other stuff, but these are very easy to build. Their Speed Hate, which interacts really well with his character, and then they interact extremely well with Falling Titans in that you can commit one to look at the top of your deck, confirm that there's a 5 on top, and keep going, or you can just draw a whole bunch of cards while you're playing Falling Titans if you don't care about your checks. You kind of pick which one you want to do. And then the other backups were the 9 Titans and Massive Abnormal. Yeah, they're right here. So this card is just really good at drawing blocks and building out your stage a lot. It doesn't always draw you a card, but that's okay. More often than not, it does. The other thing about this is a 1 high block makes it really, really good, especially on the flip side where you have +2 to the check because it's the Titan card. This becomes a 0 diff essentially when you flip and a -1 high block. Fantastic. And we're just committing this to get as much card advantage as we can. And then 9 Titans, I mean, we just use this card as long as it exists, I guess. We don't have a ton of damage reduction in this deck, so it's nice to have some for when we can't block, and then it also allows us to kill with like our female and beast attacks and stuff, but it's not the primary game plan of this deck. It's just here because it's an extremely good card. And then the last few cards I ran were 2 Filled with Doubt and 2 Airship. I wanted some number of these in the deck. This is basically to hedge against things that seal my attacks, and then it also can pick up things when I don't have a Falling Titans loop going to kind of get more offense in, or it works on defense to pick up something. And Filled with Doubt was really only here for Sweeping Daggers on Animus Shot, Sweeping Daggers on Harness Undeath, and then Animus Shot. Those are like the 2 main cards. When they weren't on those, I would honestly just side this out for like Kaya's Compassion or something. So that's the main deck. I believe it's 70 cards, 20 attacks. It's a fairly standard ratio, maybe a bit light on attacks, but this character is fine with that because Falling Titans will sit in your stage, transformed, and then you can pick it up and continue at any point. If you draw a bunch of backups, great. You're fine building them out, passing, and sending a bunch of Fallings the next turn. A lot of times when people were sort of watching my games, I think they expected me to try and kill a bit earlier. You know, I saw the stream say a few times that I'm like playing with my food, but honestly, I just wanted to take as few risks as possible, and if it felt like it was close at all, I would just build pass and I would put them on trying to kill me, which is very, very difficult, and then I would continue with more backups and more resources the next turn, because I was getting further ahead than they were with my character drawing all those cards. So this is the sideboard. I had an extra moment of normalcy and Frantic Rescue. Just kind of brought these in certain matchups when it felt like this card was better or this card was better. This Special Forces Elite is very funny. It is a deadlock response that cancels a response, which works against characters. So canceling Deku came up in the tournament. This cancels things that beat Falling Titans. It's like an extra copy of Incredible Display that also has a little bit of edge against decks that build into deadlock. So, I mean, it only works in deadlock, right? But it's the fact that you can cancel characters that makes it really nice. So I wanted to have that in the sideboard. I cited 2 Faith Shield. In the backup decks, I felt like it was really important to flip their beast attacks, because sometimes it's very hard to attack that card. But then also this kind of a hedge for knowing that the aggro decks like Porco exist, and it makes it harder for him to do things if I flip his attacks. And I actually won a game versus Kevin because I flipped his Earthbreaker. That would have added a bunch of damage. It was very funny when we realized how impactful Face Shield was, so this card was great. And the fact that this removes on block as well makes it like a very good defensive piece. So it came in a good amount. I sided 2 attacks, 2 Harness on Death. This card would typically come in when I sided out on Yielding Destruction, when I felt like it wasn't great. In the finals, I actually sided out Resurrected Titans for this because I knew he didn't have low attacks, and I just wanted to keep my block zones good, and 4 Harness was necessary in that matchup for me, you know, just in terms of offense. And the last card in my sideboard was Kaya's Compassion. This card actually didn't come up as much as I thought it would, but this card, I picked it over Fortitude of the Armored Titan. I wanted something against string decks in addition to my Frantic Rescues, and my thinking was Fortitude does not clear, and this one does. So even though they might have a way of dealing with the card that I make them put in their card pool by responding Kaya's Compassion, it still seemed better for continuing to block than Fortitude would have been, was my general thought process. It didn't come up as much as I thought it would, but I still believe that this card was the correct choice for this tournament, just generally better against the field. This guy is fine taking some hits, so sometimes, you know, you can take a fairly large move, respond Kaya's, and then see if they try and overextend. And again, the benefit of like this card and Frantic Rescue in this deck is if they build pass, we are just continuing to get ahead every time, so we are totally fine with them doing that. But yeah, overall I went X1 in Swiss. My loss was to a Hanj 1, which I just got decimated. It was not very close. Committed my character game 2 and got hit for well over my life total, because he still had a Harness on Death that he hadn't even checked yet. But the rest of the matches were great. A lot of very close games. Shout out to all my opponents. I had a great time playing against all of you. It was a fantastic weekend. So thanks to people who helped me work on the deck. Thanks to my team and friends and everybody for believing in me and getting me to the finish line here. Yeah, it doesn't feel real, but we did it. So it's awesome. I'm really glad to put this character on the map, and I look forward to see what people do with him. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. I will probably do some videos on Turtles and stuff going forward. I'm looking forward to where the game is headed, and there's particularly some recent Turtles cards that have me excited to sort of brew some stuff. So yeah, time to hit the ground running, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.